welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Nisha, and for today's video we are going to cover one of the biggest topics for students studying medicine abroad, and that is finances. Finances are such a big topic to play in our medical school journey, and today we are going to cover everything about finances on how to fund your medical school journey. This video is dedicated specifically to my Canadian family. I know the United States, they have their own loan funding such as FAFSA. However, I don't know much about FAFSA, but what I do know is for the Canadians, how to fund your medical school education. Seeing that I am a Canadian studying medicine abroad in the Caribbean, so I'm here to help you. During the past few years, I've gotten a lot of questions talking about finances, such as where do I go to get loans? Can I work when I'm studying medicine abroad in a different country? Where do I go to get scholarships? What type of loans are there? What do I qualify for? What are the different ways to fund my education? Don't look no further. I'm going to cover a lot of those topics today, and you don't have to stress anymore. And whether you are studying medicine in the Caribbean, in the UK, Australia, wherever part of the world, we're going to cover everything that you need to know about finances, because everything adds up at the end of the day, such as travels, visas, rent, food, groceries, renting a car, tuition. Like, there's so many things that adds up and it accumulates over time. To start a medical school journey, if there are no funds, there is no journey. So today we are definitely going to talk about how to fund your medical school education when you are studying abroad. However, just a disclaimer, I just want to put it out there that I am by no means a financial advisor. I do not work at a bank. This is not sponsored or affiliated with any banks whatsoever. If you are interested in any of these options, I strongly suggest you to go to your local branch, talk to a financial advisor about your options that qualify for you with your financial needs. Everything I'm talking about today is stuff that I have researched, stuff that I have talked about with my own financial advisors, and things that other students that I've asked that they do as well to fund their medical school education. So please take this as an informative video, but please talk to a financial advisor or your local branch for more information to make sure that all of these are suited towards your own financial situation. So now let's get into the ways that you are able to fund your medical school education studying abroad as a Canadian. So first, I'm going to talk about some of the easiest ways that you can fund your education. And the first one is to have your parents fund your education. So if your parents are making well over $100,000 or even more, have a good savings plan, the number one option that you can do is have your parents or family member pay for your education, pay out of pocket if you have that money. If you do, bless your heart, you are on your way to funding your medical school education. I do know some people who have their parents fund their education and pay out of pocket, and honestly, I think they are some of the luckiest human beings alive, and I'm so happy for you guys. But for the people who aren't able to pay out of pocket, there are some other options that I will talk about later on how to fund your education. The second way to fund your medical school education is if you have a trust fund or an inheritance, you can definitely use that to fund your medical school education. There you have a lump sum of money that you are able to use and distribute towards your tuition, towards your groceries, your rent, any other expenses that you may have, and you can also save that as an emergency fund as well, because emergencies do arise when you are studying abroad as well. So you can definitely distribute and allocate that money effectively towards different areas as you are studying medicine abroad. Okay, so now that we have the ways you can pay out of pocket to fund your medical school education, now we are going to get into the different types of loans that you can use that are available for Canadians to fund your medical school education. And the first one obviously would be to take a line of credit. I feel like that is one of the biggest and most popular ways to fund your medical school education. That is personally one of the ways that I also funded my medical school education as well. I should note that line of credits, they aren't just regular student loans. These are loans specifically designated to professional education, such as dentistry, lawyer, becoming a doctor, medical school. These are loans dedicated to those types of professions, and most banks do fund international students at select schools. So there are many banks in Canada that do offer a line of credit, such as RBC, Scotiabank, CIBC, TD Bank. They all offer a line of credit specifically towards students. And depending on your financial situation, you can be qualified to get over $275,000 up to $300,000 for your line of credit to help fund your medical school education. However, I will say specifically for Canadians studying abroad, this money by any means will not fund the entirety of your medical school education, but this will cover a huge amount of it. Because with the conversion currently, when you are studying medicine abroad, especially if you are in the Caribbean, most of the prices are in US dollars, which means that everything from US is converted to Canadian, and especially it being right now in 2025, the conversion is not the best right now, so everything tends to be a lot more expensive. And especially when you are distributing this money across a variety of areas such as groceries, rent, car driving, travel, transportation, plane rides, visas, etc. It all tends to add up and everything starts to get a little bit more expensive, but this is just a way to cover majority of your finances. So when you do get qualified for the 275 to 300K, there is a prime interest rate, which is one of the good and cheapest interest rate that you can get at the bank. So the interest is usually prime plus 0% or 1% interest, which is pretty pretty good. However, the interest does accumulate over time, so it does get a little bit more expensive, but this is one of the better interest rates on the market. And a good thing about this line of credit is that there are no repayments while you are in school. However, you do have to pay interest while you are studying abroad, and once you graduate, then you can start repaying back that loan. And when you do decide to make the appointment at the bank and talk to a financial advisor about a line of credit, there are a few things that you are going to need before you head off there, and I always would say to come prepared when you are going towards these meetings, such as you're going to need your admission letter to the school. You're going to need your tuition invoice as well, so they can calculate how much you are going to need over a long period of time. Some banks also do require a confirmation of enrollment letter as well from your school to make sure that the line of credit that you are getting is specifically to fund your education. With the line of credit, you are often not going to be able to sign for this yourself, as we are not working full jobs to pay the interest rate. So when it comes to line of credits, when you are applying as a student, you are going to need co-signers, and depending on your financial situation, you might need 1 to 2 co-signers to get your line of credit. So when you are going to the bank, just be prepared. Bring your parents, bring a guardian, bring someone with you, so that way you are prepared to co-sign when you do get approved for that loan. So you might need 1 co-signers, 2, but just be prepared for that. So one more thing to know when you are applying for this line of credit. So when you are going to the bank to find out more about a line of credit, make sure you are applying to more than one bank. So that way you are able to compare the terms and conditions of each of the line of credits. And when you are asking about the line of credits, you definitely want to ask about the interest rates, the grace periods after graduation, required co-signers, and credit card and banking perks as well. Also, I do want to lastly note that not every bank is going to offer you a student line of credit. Depending on the school that you're going for, and if they are the select schools that are approved for the student line of credit, if your school is not on the list of select schools that are approved for that student line of credit, you may not be qualified to get approved for that student line of credit. Your financial advisor might make you go towards a personal line of credit, which tends to have a higher interest rate as well, because it's just how it is. Like, the banks usually tend to gravitate towards students who are studying within Canada, but we all know there's only a certain amount of schools in Canada, about like 12 to 13 schools across the entire country. And I know they are building more medical schools as well, and it is tough to get into a school here, but they do prefer students who are studying within the country. So it tends to depend on which school that is approved for that student line of credit that makes you get approved for that loan. So if your school's not on that list, they might lean towards a personal line of credit or another line of credit that's gravitated towards your financial situation. So just keep that in mind when you are making your appointments and you are discussing this with your financial advisor. The fourth way you are able to fund your medical school education is if you have an RESP, and an RESP stands for Registered Education Saving Plan. So if your parents contributed to an RESP while you were growing up and you still have some money in your RESP, because probably some of you might have used that to cover your undergrad fees, but if you still have some in your RESP that need to be used up, you can definitely use that to fund your education. The only thing about this is that your school has to be on the Designated Education Institutions list, and this is usually listed on the Canadian Revenue Agency. So your school just has to be listed on that for you to be able to use that money towards your medical school journey abroad. So to do this, you can visit canada.ca and you can find out a lot more information on where you are able to contribute your money from your RESP. So once you visit canada.ca, you can definitely look up your med school, and a lot of Caribbean and UK med schools are listed on there as well. And then you can contact your RESP provider to confirm the release of funds to fund your medical school education. Also, an important thing to know about this is the RESP funds usually fund your tuition and education related costs. So usually they don't cover like visas or travel related expenses. So just keep that in mind. Another way to fund your medical school education is through OSAP. Can you get OSAP if you are studying abroad for medical school? And the answer is yes, but there is a catch. Your school has to be on the government approved list of select schools to get approved for an OSAP. And another thing is that you aren't gonna get as much as you did back in undergrad for school. So if you are studying abroad, just be prepared to not receive as much. And honestly, the money that you receive is very little and probably will cover your rent, some of your groceries for a short period of time. So some schools that qualify, such as like AUA, AUC, and some other schools in the Caribbean, OSAP will be able to grant you between $5,000 to $10,000 a year through OSAP, which is honestly very little considering how expensive it is to study medicine abroad. And another thing is that all of this money will be through loans, and you don't get qualified for grants when you are studying abroad from Canada, which is another thing that really sucks. So this is basically just all loans and you don't get qualified for any grants. And a way to check to see if your school is on the qualified list is to go to canada.ca and check if your school is on there. Also, when you are doing the OSAP application, it will ask you about your designated school, and it will usually tell you if it is on the approved list or not, and most of the time it actually is. So when you are applying for OSAP, even though it is very minimal, every dollar counts when you are studying medicine abroad, because because we aren't working. We're not making a salary. If I can get anything to support my education, even if it is loans through OSAP, I'm gonna take it. And again, this is your choice whether or not you do want to apply for OSAP or not. So again, with OSAP, everything that you do apply for gets converted into a loan, and all the rules still stay the same when you are applying for OSAP. You don't pay anything until after you graduated, and you just have to make sure that you're confirming your enrollment at your school every semester to make sure that you aren't getting started on that repayment plan. So basically everything stays the same, so at least we still have some OSAP. Another way to fund your medical school education is through scholarships. Now, for Canadian students studying medicine abroad, there aren't many scholarships available to us, which is another thing that really sucks. However, you can get scholarships through your school. Also, if you probably look online, you can definitely find some. I personally couldn't find any. I went scouring for hours trying to find scholarships online on websites, and I just couldn't find any that were applicable to students studying abroad. However, you are able to find scholarships through your school specifically. I know my school, when I'm at AUA, they do offer lots of scholarships, especially for Canadian students. For one, being a Canadian, that grants you a scholarship. If you have a certain MCAT score, that also grants you another scholarship as well. And one that I recently found out is that if you refer students to AUA, you can also get qualified for a scholarship. So I did not know that. So now you know. So I would definitely reach out to your school, your financial advisor, or anyone who works in the admissions team and find out if there's any scholarships that you are applicable for, and definitely apply, because if you can save some money, whether it's your tuition, living expenses, it definitely does help tremendously. And then that's one thing you have to stress less about while you are studying medicine. Okay, so those are some of the most common ways that a lot of Canadians fund their education while studying abroad. However, the last two that I'm going to talk about are a little bit more unconventional, and it's only if it applies to if you aren't qualified for a student or a personal line of credit. These are some other ways that can aid in helping to fund your education, and I do know some students who have taken these routes. It is a little bit more tougher and slightly a little bit more stressful, but it does help to cover a lot of the expenses. And the first one of these is a line of equity. So you might ask, what is a line of equity? So a line of equity is also termed as the home equity line of credit, and this is where it's kind of like a credit card, but you're using your home as collateral to help fund your education. So for some of you guys that don't know what this is, because personally I did not know what this is as well, and I had to have an advisor explain this to me. So basically what it is an equity. So basically how this works is, first we're going to break it down in terms. So let's start with equity. Equity is the part of your home that you own outright. So you own that. And it's the difference between your home value and what you owe on your mortgage, whether you are still paying a mortgage or not. So the next part is the credit limit. So this is solely based on your home's equity. So this is the part that you own outright, and the credit limit is based on your home's equity. So this is how much the bank allows you to borrow based on your home's equity. So you are able to borrow this money whenever you need it. It's much like so as using a credit card, but the bank definitely puts a limit on how much you are able to borrow. And in terms of the repayment plan, you only repay back the amount that you borrow and not the entire amount. And in terms of the repayment on the line of equity, you only pay the interest for the amount that you borrow and not the entire limit of your line of equity. So you can repay back the borrowed amount over time, and as you repay, you are able to borrow the amount up to that limit. This is in terms of your home's value minus your mortgage, and that's how much the bank is going to let you borrow, which is going to be up to $100,000. But this definitely depends on the equity that you have on your house and whatever remaining mortgage that you have on your house that you need to repay. So this seems like a lot because you are putting your house technically on the line, so why should you consider this? So again, it is a flexible way in order to fund your medical school education if you do not get qualified for a student or a personal line of credit, and it does often have lower interest rates than credit cards as well because you are using your home as collateral. However, with this, there are some risks as well. Whether you are taking out credit cards, loans, there's always going to be some risk. So definitely the biggest risk when you are taking out a line of equity to fund your education is that your home is at risk if you can't repay back the borrowed amount. So it definitely puts your home at jeopardy when you are unable to repay back what you borrowed. And the interest rates for these can definitely vary, and they can definitely change over time, which makes it a little bit more expensive over time if the interest rates do go up. So that is definitely one way to fund your education. And the last way that I'm going to be talking about is remortgaging your home. So when you are remortgaging your home to pay for your education, it often involves around refinancing your existing mortgage to access the equity that you have built up. So there are multiple steps to this, and I feel like this is probably one of the last resorts of the ways you can fund your education. So the first step towards all of this is to evaluate your equity. So you definitely want to determine how much equity you do have on your house, and this step really involves around your parents because they need to decide whether or not they want to remortgage their home or if they want to take out a line of equity as well. So the first step, you do have to get your home evaluated to determine the equity that you have on your home. And to reiterate, equity again is the difference between your home's current value and the remaining balance that you have on your mortgage. mortgage. The second step is to check your credit score, because when you do have a good credit score, you are able to have better interest rates, which is amazing because we do not want to pay very high interest rates for a loan. And a good credit score helps to determine a better interest rates on your new mortgage. So the next step is to shop around for different lenders. You definitely want to shop around and see where you can get better terms, better interest rates, and this often does involve the bank as well. So you definitely want to shop around and see where you are going to get a better interest rate when you do decide to remortgage your home. And then after you do this step, you are going to want to determine what type of refinance you want. So I'm not going to get into too big of details because I feel like if you do decide to take this, you can definitely talk to your financial advisor about it. But there's 3 different types that I'm aware of on ways to remortgage your home in terms of the type of refinance. So I definitely have these types of refinances written down for you because I'm not a finance girly by any means in this kind of depth. So the first one is definitely a cash out refinance. So you are able to refinance your mortgage for more than you currently owe and then take that difference out in cash. The second way is a home equity loan. So you can take out a second loan against your equity, resulting in a lump sum of cash. And the third one is a home equity line of credit, which is the one I talked about previously. So it's very similar to a credit card. So you are able to borrow up as needed, but there is a limit to how much you are able to borrow. And once you find out what type of refinance you want, and then you can go ahead and apply for the loan. So you're going to want to complete the application process, get all the documents as needed. And then once you do that, then becomes the approval and the appraise phase. So first, the lender will require a home appraisal to determine the value of your home. And once you get approved for that, you are going to go through a process that's similar to your original mortgage. And then once all of that is done, then you are able to receive your funds. So for a cash out finance or a home equity loan, you will receive a lump sum of money so that way you are able to use it to pay for your school's expenses. And for the home equity line of credit, you are able to borrow as much as needed up until your credit limit. So I know this is all very confusing because I know as medical students, we are not finance people by any means, but basically this is going to be very similar to a home equity line of credit. So when you do get your home value, say your home's valued at like $4,000 and the amount remaining balance on your mortgage is $200,000, basically your equity on the home is $200,000. So when you are taking this route, it is a very big financial risk. So there are some considerations such as the cost. There are costs associated with refinancing. There are also closing costs, costs for the appraisals, and so forth. So it can be a little bit pricey. Also, you do have to be wary about the interest rates on this as well. And you do want to be aware of the repayment plan so that way you are able to fit your financial situation in terms of repayment. And also you want to be aware of the financial impact. You want to be sure that remortgaging your home won't financially negatively impact you because you don't want to be further in debt when you are doing this as well. So you're probably thinking, this is such a huge burden. What are the benefits to this? So for one, you definitely have access to potentially lower interest rates compared to some of the other loans that you can get qualified for. And it provides flexibility so that way it does cover the cost of your tuition, any expenses when you are studying abroad such as rent, groceries, food, etc. So let's speak about the risk of these because you are remortgaging your home and that is another huge burden. So let's talk about the risks. So the first risk is the pretty obvious one. You are going to have an increased mortgage balance and possibly higher monthly payments as well. And the second risk is the risk of foreclosure if you aren't able to make the repayments on time, which is pretty scary. So this is definitely a huge burden. And although it does cover a lot of your financial costs for education, there is a lot of risk with this option, but it definitely is an option. So remortgaging your home is definitely a practical way to get access for funds for your education and other expenses while you are studying abroad, but you just have to compare the benefit of risk of this to see if this is suitable for your financial situation or not. Because at the end of the day, everyone varies financially, like in so many different ways. So you just have to be sure that this is the best option for you. So those are all the options for how you are able to fund your medical school education from what I found out from financial advisors, friends, and also the personal research that I did. Now there is one commonly asked question that I always get asked for students studying abroad, and that is, can I work while I'm abroad in medical school? That answer is, it depends on your visa and your school's policy. Because when you are studying abroad in a different country, if you are going for school, you are definitely going for a school visa. You're not going for a work visa. So it actually prevents you from working on the island as well. And again, if the school or the government does find out that you are working at the country that you are and also going to school as well, they can technically revoke your visa, and there can be some other consequences as well. Sometimes they can give you a warning, but it's best to talk to your school, see the government guidelines when it comes to getting that visa and the school's policy while attending that medical school and also finding work as well. And I also would say, if you are deciding to find work when you are studying abroad, it definitely is a big burden because you definitely just want to ensure that you're there for the least amount of time possible because studying abroad is very expensive. So when you are working and studying, it definitely can hinder your performance a little bit. So I would definitely be very cautious if you do decide to work abroad and they actually do allow you while you are on your visa while attending that grad school. But again, it all depends on your situation as well. But again, you just want to focus on your medical school education when you are there, because at the end of the day, your grades do matter, the way you score on your exams do matter. But I will talk about ways that you are able to earn money while you are attending medical school abroad that doesn't hinder the policies and rules regarding the visas and your school's policy. So there are some side hustles that you can definitely take a part of, such as freelancing, such as writing, designing, tutoring. All of those things you can do as well while you are studying abroad, and you can definitely make some money on the side as well. There are also some remote part-time jobs that you can apply for. If you look on Indeed or any other website where you are able to find jobs, there are a lot of remote jobs nowadays, and a lot of them have flexible hours as well, and they offer some good money too. So if you are able to apply for those and you can fit those in your study schedule, you can definitely apply for those as well and earn a little bit of income while you are studying abroad. And another one is something that I do, and it's content creation. You can definitely make content while you are away from school. However, I will note that as a Canadian, you do not make money off of TikTok or Instagram. You do not get the bonuses. There is no TikTok creator marketplace where you are able to earn an income on those. So most of it you can make off of YouTube, or you can definitely do a lot of sponsorships as well, and you could earn a little bit of income in that way. And the last one, and the most common one that a lot of med students take while they are studying abroad, is tutoring. Whether you are doing virtual tutoring, you're tutoring for MCAT, pre-meds, you are doing tutoring for first semester, second semester. For the lower class of medical students that are first coming in, you can definitely give tutoring sessions as well, and that is a great way to make some income. It is also a great way to connect with other med students as well who are new to this school, who are wanting someone such as a mentor that you can be a guide for them as well, and that is also a great way to make money and also meet new people and network within your campus. So I hope that definitely helped and answer some questions. Even though we can't technically work locally in some of the countries where we are studying abroad and attending school, there are a lot of side hustles that you can work with, and there are a lot more as well. If you look online, there are so many jobs that you can get qualified for while you are studying abroad, but you just also want to make sure that it doesn't hinder your performance in medical school. You always want to keep medical school a priority because it is taking a lot to fund it. But I know with finances, you do need money to attend medical school, so it technically goes hand in hand. But at the end of the day, just make sure medical school is always your #1 priority and you are time managing your time really well. So that is all the options for how to finance your medical school education. I really hope this was helpful. I hope you were able to take a lot of information out of it, write down some notes and jot it down, go to your local branch and talk to an advisor at any of the banks across Canada and see which option would be best for you. I know it is such a huge burden, especially as Canadian students, because it just seems we are very limited, but there are options that are available to you. And I really hope this provides a little bit more clarity on ways that you are able to fund your medical school education and continue on your medical school journey. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. As always, if you guys have any comments, you want to add anything to this video, or if you have any other solutions on ways that students can fund their education as a Canadian studying medicine abroad, please comment it down below in the description box. We would love to share some ideas and help fellow med students as well pursue their dreams of becoming a doctor. And as always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. As always, if you guys love watching my channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, turn on your post notifications, give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.